Tens of thousands of football fans came to Highbury. Electrifying.
Hello and welcome to the fourth episode of the weekly roundup with myself as host on the Cannon podcast. It's been a bit of a crazy week. I've been moaning the past few weeks about not having enough to talk about. I cannot moan about that this week. There has been all sorts happening. So first of all, what I've been told by a few people is that I've been ignoring the chat. So I first of all want to ask how everyone is today. What have you had for dinner? How are you and how's your week been? And we'll go on to talk more Arsenal because there's a lot of exciting stuff to talk about regarding Arsenal. While I wait for some of the comments to come through, I'll show you how I feel like this week because, as I say, past weeks have been a bit dry. This week, if I can show it, has felt a little bit like this. Eze on the wall, Rodrigo on the wall, Madueke on the wall. We're going to get through it all this episode, but it's been nuts. And apparently Rory went to the toilet or something. No, he's just in the background. We're going to invite him in a second. I just wanted to ask how you were. 2 a.m. here, doing just fine. I really appreciate people who are coming at 2 a.m. to watch the Cannon podcast and myself. And everyone is blaming Rory for being late. It wasn't Rory's fault. Rory was here on time, actually. I started a few minutes late to keep you all waiting. But without further ado, I'll bring in the man himself. First of all, Rory, how are you on this beautiful Wednesday?
I'm very well, thank you. A bit cooler than it's been the last couple of nights. So yeah, decent. You?
Yeah, I'm good. It's so to just moan about the weather, and I try not to, but these last few days have been horrific. Someone's saying James on the McDonald's Wi-Fi. Is it bad?
It's a bit laggy, I think, yeah. But
that's not good. Okay. You are quite laggy. Other than that, I'm eating some creme brulee ice cream. Can everybody still hear me, or am I still lagging?
I think the audio's all right. Your pictures might be a bit laggy, but
that's frustrating because on my screen I look fine. I look okay, but apparently I'm still lagging. So I might have to hand over the reins to Rory, which would be awfully embarrassing considering it's my show. But without further ado, can we all still hear me, or is it still a problem?
I think it's all right.
Okay. Dear me. I am not on McDonald's Wi-Fi. I would like to make it clear. I'm on my home Wi-Fi, but we have to make do. Goat guest, says Philip Jacobson, which is a big talk, and 2 streams in one day. Have you been streaming already today?
Yeah, we've done my stream today. So
okay. Do you daily stream?
I try. Some of the chat will say that I make a lot of excuses, but we do what we can.
All right. Usually we do this at the end, but while I'm waiting for my internet to warm up, can you tell people where they can find you and where you're streaming on?
Yeah, Rory Talks Football on pretty much any platform you could think of. And yeah, YouTube, we do streams or videos pretty much daily. And otherwise, you can find me on TikTok. That's where I'm.
We do not need a James laptop saga. I don't know if you saw this, Rory, on Twitter. Rohan laptop saga lasted far too long. The only James saga we will have is potentially a James Wi-Fi saga. But I pay good money for my Wi-Fi, so someone's getting in trouble. Right, let's jump straight into the rumours today because we've got a lot to talk about. Today we will start with Eze. We will go on to Madueke, talk about Mosquera, and then go into some of the chat and see if they have anything to add. And again, usually my Wi-Fi is quite good, so I do apologise to everyone, and hopefully Alex isn't watching, otherwise I'm getting kicked again. So without further ado, we'll jump into the first transfer report, which is Eberechi Eze. As I said, I just need to share my screen. And this has been reported all over today from numerous sources. Fabrizio of Arsenal, Con Marble Halls. Rory, how do you feel about all these links that have come out on a footballing level?
I like them. I especially like the fact that we are seemingly after him as an attacking midfielder rather than a left winger. Sort of as an attacking midfielder that can play as a left winger, which still suggests that the the left wing signing will be someone else on top of him. And it plays into this idea that we're going to get 3 attacking signings. I think that's really important. Eze himself, I mean, he's such a lovable player. I think a lot of rival fan bases are going to find it difficult if he moves to Arsenal. So yeah, all round, I think it's a really exciting looking signing.
It's also if we can get Eze on top of a winger and a striker, this is the sort of business that Arsenal haven't been doing the past years. We've always left ourselves short. We've always gone one or thing. Nobody in their wildest dreams thought we'd get an attacking midfielder, a winger, and a striker this summer. And people are saying four attackers. I don't think 4's going to happen, but if we can get 3 over the line, then I think we're in an incredible situation. And as I say, we've had reports from all over. Just to bring up some others, Team News and Ticks. This lesser seen nowadays, but still doing his thing on Patreon, I believe. With Eberechi Eze, that is a deal Arsenal could get wrapped for the next hour if they wanted to. Eze is desperate for it. As Arteta has said himself before, you don't want to persuade people to join Arsenal. This guy is an Arsenal fan. He used to be at Arsenal. And I just think he'd be a massive fan favourite. Moving away from the technical side of things, how realistic do you think this is as a signing? And do you think it's possible to do it on top of a winger?
Yeah, I think the fact that we seem to be moving forward with it quite quickly now suggests that it can be done on top of the winger. And I feel like it's fairly realistic. I think Palace will look to sell this summer and cash in on it. I think he's at a stage in his career, at his age now, where it's probably now or never. And if he is to leave Crystal Palace, it seems like we are definitely the front runners for it. So yeah, I think it's actually got like a pretty high likelihood of happening.
And it's nice to be in a position now where we read this so often. Eze is desperate for it. When we were 8th, teams were treating us a little bit like Eze's treated Tottenham. From what I hear and understand, Eze does not want to go to Tottenham. And very actively has said, no, not Tottenham, rather stay at Palace. So these links, not having to persuade people, like Nico Williams, it was just such a drag. So I'd rather players like Eze play for my football club, who will bring us so much that we don't have. Just to jump back to a kind of footballing talk, we're missing that central powerful running. Ødegaard, for all his strengths, cannot drag the team up the pitch in central areas. Rice can, but not in tight spaces. And on that left-hand side, it will be really, really interesting how we use him, because there's the possibility of playing a 3 in midfield with Ødegaard, Eze, and Rice or Zubimendi at the anchor. And obviously there's the possibility that he plays as a backup to Ødegaard. Where would you most like to see him yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I like him in the left A. I think in certain games you could get away with it being Rice, Eze, Ødegaard. I think in the kind of the tougher games against stronger midfields, you probably need Zubimendi and Rice, or Norgard and Rice, or whatever. But I definitely think, yeah, as a central player on the left hand side, what I do also like is that Arteta's always spoken about how he wants to be unpredictable going into games. He wants to be able to switch things up. There is a world in which we could almost play with Zubimendi, Eze, and then someone else in the right central midfield spot. And it's actually, our left central midfielder that is the more attacking player, and everything kind of inverts a little bit, which again provides you a different option. And then obviously he can play off the left. I'd imagine he can play off the right. Like, he's an incredibly versatile player. But ultimately, it would be nice to have someone, a senior player, that could truly kind of push Ødegaard, which is something that, I felt we lacked certainly last season, but really we've lacked it for quite a few years.
And it's interesting on that point, because Theo Walcott at some point last season mentioned that a few of our senior players weren't really being seriously challenged. And I don't know, some of the fan race kind of, it didn't sit right with them. But Walcott's been there and done it. He knows how the game works. And Eze is exactly the sort of player who can push several different players in that attack and that midfield to say, by the way, this isn't, with all due respect to Nketiah a few seasons ago, this isn't Jesus underperforming and Nketiah comes in. This is Eze who would start for most teams in the league. this is the depth that we've been competing with for Man City for so many years and been struggling with. It's as I say, it's weird because I've supported Arsenal my whole life, 25 years, and we've not acted this serious in the transfer market. If this happens, but that's a big if. We have a few super chats, so I'm going to go through them. First of all, Rory Crew show up, put on the hat. Please, can you explain what hashtag put on the hat means?
Now, yesterday, as an emergency measure, someone said I was sweating so badly it was dripping into my own eyes and I couldn't continue the stream. And someone said put on a hat to stop it. And the only hat I had in the background there is an Ian Wright bucket hat. And so we did have to stream with an Ian Wright bucket hat. And it's safe to say I don't necessarily suit the bucket hat. But that's the story.
I beg to differ. We'll have to see it to believe it. But thank you for the donation, Eli Pendry. David McCann. We will only get a left wing if we sell Martinelli per Ornstein. Yeah, I've seen this, and a few people I'm in a group chat with were not happy with that report and saying they don't believe it. I personally think it makes total sense, just on the basis that there are only so many players you can have in a squad. I just think, and I don't believe in this stockpiling idea because we have far less players than some other teams, but you've got to consider players of a certain quality like Trossard will not want to be 9th choice attacker. And I've not calculated that correctly, but if you consider Rodrigo, Martinelli, Saka, all of these guys are going to be ahead of Trossard. Now, will he be happy there? We could do a Chelsea and just lie to them, but you can see how that ends up. You can see the unrest it leaves to the dressing room. So do you think we'd sell Martinelli to bring in Eze, or do you think both can coexist?
Well, so I think it's like the way you word it almost changes the way people see it, because when it came out that we could do Eze and a left winger, I think I said, and most people agreed, like we would have to sell one of Trossard and Martinelli. Just like reasonably speaking, you would have to sell one of them if you brought in Eze and a left winger. And that was fine. And I think a lot of people were kind of in the boat. I was certainly in the boat that, like, in a dream world, you'd probably rather lose Trossard than Martinelli, as in if you could just pick which player. But if you need the money, which you probably will, you could probably get a lot more money from Martinelli. But then if you change the wording to Arsenal need to sell the player to raise the money to buy the left winger, then everyone's like, no, we don't. And it's like, it's the same thing. It's just the order that you do it in. So yeah, I think we could sell Martinelli. I think if there have been like various little reports about maybe a big bid coming in from Saudi.
I can't get behind this. Nelson can go instead. I know we want to be Man City and Chelsea in these clubs with infinite money pots, but there has to be a limit on it. It also, aside from Martinelli, like for example, Liverpool, they're selling Kwanzaa for 40 million. They're selling, I don't know, Kelleher for 30 million. They sell all sorts of players. So far, I don't know, we're going to get Tuppence from Tavares, Lokonga, Vieira, these guys. We don't have at the moment, and hopefully one day we are able to achieve this, but we don't have this like instant 100 million that other teams make every season. Because Man City and Chelsea also, because they've got this multi-club system, they've got players that we don't even realize they're selling. So, of course, it's not comparable, but there is a limit on how many people we can sign from a financial standpoint, but also from just a squad sense. I just want to talk through one more comment before we go into the rating system. Eze is a different profile, but I don't know if he's even better than Marino, to be honest. And the same guy said, I don't think Eze raises our squad level. Where do you stand on this?
I mean, hey, everyone's got an opinion, right? He does. He just objectively, Eze raises the level of the squad, certainly raises the floor of the squad, and would push a number of different players for their spots in the starting 11. And it's not even just a case of what he's done for Palace, and particularly last season. I think he got 14 goals, 12 assists. Did it against big teams as well, but also what he's done since he started getting dropped into the England lineup. So, yeah, I mean, he does raise the level of the squad.
James, your video is getting sent to me. I am going to assume that means I am really seriously lagging. So I apologize, but hopefully my sound is still coming through okay. And Nid has correctly said gifted membership myth. So I really appreciate it, Nid, for the gifted One Cannon podcast membership. I will be totally honest. I do not know what this means, but thank you very much for the gifted membership. As I say, this is my 4th episode, so we're still finding my feet here. Right, let's jump into the rating system, as always. And this now has a name. The name before was bad. It was called the 5-point rating system. The name before is slightly better. It is now called the Cannon rating system.
Hey, genius.
But Eze, which I keep putting an accent on for no reason, where do you place him on the 5 being absolute certainty and 1 being complete codswallop, if you're familiar with that word?
Yeah, I am familiar with that word. It's a great word. I'd say it's got legs. I'd say 4. I wouldn't stick my house on Arsenal doing, and there's never a single piece of business I would stick my house on Arsenal doing. But yeah, it's definitely got legs. I'm confident.
And Spacetime 34 agrees with you. Also, as I said before, I need to do more crowd work here. So when we go through these players, if the chat want to offer their opinion about how serious they think the links are, please feel free. We also maybe need to change that. It's got legs and stick your house on it is too big.
That's a big there's a big gap there.
Yeah. So I think we're going to move it's got legs to 3 cannons, and then we need a new section for 4. So if anyone has any suggestions what we should call 4, please let me know. It's got sexy legs. I completely agree. Just AJ. I think and this is an interesting comment. Do you think Eze could work as a false 9 in certain games? Not really, because I think people underestimate how different playing with your back to goal is as a false 9 compared to what you'd expect of playing with the pitch in front of you. I wouldn't rule it out altogether, but I think if all goes well, we'll have plenty of situations to not need to get to this point. Do you have any opinion on
that? I don't know. I've not really seen him play that way for Palace before, so to be honest, I don't really like us playing a false 9 anyway. It's not really something I want to see. So
yeah, we've seen it so many times before where the opposition centre backs. I mean, actually happening against PSG, the opposition centre backs were just comfy because no one was challenging them. So we need it. Yeah, in my opinion, a centre forward who's going to occupy the centre backs. Hopefully Seshko, but apparently that's gone to a standstill. But we won't talk about him today because we talk about him every. Moving on to the next transfer of the day, a controversial one for many, Noni Madueke. Arsenal are discussing Noni Madueke internally in a separate deal from Eze, as reported here last week. No proposal has been sent yet to Chelsea or Noni, as Arsenal keep assessing multiple options. Again, what do you think of the player before we kind of dissect the truth of the rumours?
Talented player. I think some people are actually overly critical and unfair as to like the level that he actually is. Yeah, I like him. I don't know quite if he suits what Arsenal need in terms of the work rate. I don't know if you massively see that at Chelsea. But he's certainly, he's a tricky winger that will cut onto his left foot, will find chances to score. So yeah, he's decent.
And he kind of fits in terms of that continuity. He is very, very similar to Saka in a lot of ways, that he can play that furthest most right position. And if you can isolate him in 1v1 situations with the fullback, he will cause danger for them. The difficulty is finding a backup for Saka is an impossible task, because they know that they won't play many games if Saka's fit. And people criticize Arteta for that, but unfortunately, it is the truth of the best players in the world play most of the games. The same with Liverpool with Salah. He will play most games. So finding a specialist right winger is especially difficult, especially considering we heard Madueke apparently doesn't want to play on the left-hand side. So if he came in, he really would be a backup. So I don't really know how you find a backup that's a pure right wing rather than someone who's a hybrid, like an attacking midfielder, right wing. In terms of the truth of this rumor, in my opinion, unfortunately, I think maybe it does have legs. I'd probably we'll jump straight to the Cannon rating scale. I'd probably stick with a 3 for this one. Wait a second, but the wait a second is often used as like an excitement thing.
Yeah, I think
as
so.
as you said yourself, there's a weird feeling behind this, because if we signed him straight from PSV, people would have been really excited about it. He's had a year or two experience in the Premier League. He's been fine. I don't think he's been poor whatsoever. But it's just the idea of signing someone from Chelsea, I think, that people doesn't sit with people.
Yeah, I'd go wait a second and hope that Arsenal wait longer than that. You're right. It's if we'd done it directly from PSV for what did he go for? Like 25 million, something like that, maybe
I think a little bit more than that, to be fair. Chelsea don't spend 25 million on footballers.
Yeah, that's true. Then that would have been fine, and that would have made sense for what that player's role would have been. Where you're right, like they're not going to play a huge amount, and yeah, like you said, like it's very, very, very difficult to find someone that is both good enough to be a backup to Saka, and if you're talking kind of like what Theo Walcott said, to push Saka, someone that's good enough to do that, but is also willing to fundamentally be a bench player, like it's difficult to find. So I'd be looking more now at like a Johan Bakayoko, who's kind of similar to what Madueke was at that point, which is more of a risk but a cheaper price. And yeah, I don't particularly.
But even in that situation, I think you still have kind of this similar issue where players like Bakayoko think, yes, but he's almost too good as well, because as someone who will be national team, etc., he still won't get much game time. So trying to find the right person and also not put a square peg in a round hole, because Nwaneri is of course an option, but we all know that's not his strongest position. Quickly again, to show gratitude to Armemj 0406 for becoming a YouTube member. Armemj. Ben Rayner has been absolutely spamming something in the chat. I don't know how serious he's being. I don't know if he's trolling. James, have you analysed Eze's whistle response time, and have professional clubs asked for your expert analysis? No, they haven't. Next question.
Eze's relaxed, isn't he, on penalties? From what I can remember.
But he missed one. If I recall correctly, I think he missed one last.
Bad one.
Did he take it off? Didn't he take it off? Mateta. His name escaped me. I feel like they had a bit of a discussion over a penalty as they ended up taking, and he missed because he was in a lot of people's fantasy team. Tave Ruiz again says right winger isn't as important since Trossard and Nelly, as well as Nwaneri and Dauman coming into. The problem is, Tavo, as a club that's wanting to be serious in the Champions League, if Saka gets injured, none of those are good enough to be. The way I view this is, who would you be comfortable playing in the Champions League quarter and semi-finals? Absolutely not Trossard or Nelly in right wing. So I don't know. And yes, exactly, played Gotham chess. He's a very good chess player, actually. And I may have messaged him on chess.com asking him to join Arsenal. But that's a story for another day.
Every little helps.
Yeah. We'll go into the third and final transfer rumour, which is really, really hotting up, and a fun one because no one really saw it coming. Christian, I don't know if he's misspelled it, but someone said Christian.
Romano keeps misspelling it. It's Christian, which I assume I think you pronounce it the same way. I keep calling him Chris, but it's just the spelling of it that's.
Well, as someone with several million followers, I think Romano should be doing better. It is Christian or Christian in Spanish. He wants to join Arsenal despite new contract proposal from Valencia. Now, the way this transfer has panned out, for anyone who knows me well, I'm very smug about it because I when David Raya joined Arsenal, I made a big deal about personal terms being agreed first, which gets you a deal on a player. Now, for some reason, this is a really, really standard and obvious thing to say. For some reason, non-Arsenal fans on the internet got really, really angry about this, and it ended up with about 5 million impressions on Twitter, and everyone was getting mad. But since then, so many deals have reported as personal terms being agreed first, and you end up with a good. So as you can see here, 14 million euros. From what I hear, I'm not an expert on the guy, would be an absolute bargain. And he has told us that he loves Arsenal and hates Valencia at this point. How do you feel about Mosquera links?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those that just like it feels inevitable. I mean, even the day that it all started happening, it's like the day after we'd had Norgard, where in the space of a day it had gone from like Arsenal are interested to it's basically done. This one kind of felt the same. I know they've rejected. It seems like, from what I was reading, was it Matteo thingamabobby, Matteo Moretti or whatever his name is? No, Matteo. Well, I can't remember. But basically, it sounded like Valencia almost just like weren't expecting someone to come in for him, and then suddenly Arsenal were there with an offer, and he basically agreed to it. And then they were like, "Oh, we want to keep you," and then they've tried, and he's just rejected the offer that they've made, according to various reports. And yeah, it just seems like it's inevitable. I think we'll bid a bit more.
And it's a similar situation to the Saka one, in that finding a backup for Saliba is very difficult because all goes well. Saliba plays almost every game. This is the sort of profile that does land perfectly. Now, with centre-backs, it's slightly easier because they can play left centre-back and right centre-back. But if we can find a Mosquera of right wingers, then maybe we can get Rodrigo, Eze, Sesko, and a right winger. But I highly, highly doubt that's going to happen. Especially what a lot of people overlook is Jesus is injured and is on 250k a week. If we'd been able to sell Jesus this summer, I think we'd be talking differently. And it's similar to, this guy brings it up, similar to Tomiyasu. Sell to who? Who's going to sign him right now? It's frustrating for everyone, but it isn't really possible. And Eli Pendry, Berta era has begun. On that topic, we haven't spoken about Berta himself yet. How do you feel about how he's done since he's come into the club?
Yeah, I think he's done well. I think there was a lot to do. Coming into a summer where it's like, okay, so you've got 4 or 5 major contract renewals that you need to get sorted. 2 of them are down so far. You've got, a big window of signings that you need to make. You've also got a number of sales you need to make of fundamentally players that are not the easiest to sell. And so far, he's done pretty well. The issue he's got is a lot of the the contract renewals of Miles and Gabriel were huge, but a lot of the signings that we've made are kind of the very useful ones and ones that were necessary. But we're all still waiting for the big attacking signings. And I think the whole window, in the end, will be judged on the big attacking signings, no matter what else we do. So, yeah, I like the approach. I like the fact that, it seems like there are lots of different conversations and players on the go at the same time, so that if one fails, we can move. Sounds like we moved very quickly from Partey onto Norgard when the negotiations with Partey fell apart. So, yeah, that's good. And fingers crossed he can do the business and get the attacking signings done.
Classic Arsenal social media account, always defending the club. He's done a rubbish job so far. Why aren't you calling him out, Rory?
Why is he signing a centre-back and not a striker? Yeah.
On that point, it is a really good point you make, because I really hate when people try and judge the transfer window so seriously midway through, because the order of signings does not make a difference. Of course, we want signings to happen before a certain stage so that they can have a full preseason. But just because we're signing Mosquera doesn't relate to the Rodrigo deal. It's also so much easier to sign a Mosquera than a Rodrigo. You can't walk up to Real Madrid and go 14 million euros, and they'll go, no, a little bit more, and then they go, yeah, all right, deal, 16 million euros. These things take all summer. Is James with Virgin too? No, I'm on Vodafone actually. Which,
that's
maybe
because
is the problem.
I always used to have internet problems with Virgin, so that's why Carter's brought that up.
This is really upsetting. What phase is James's Wi-Fi in? Phase 1. If we bring on the classic rating system, the Canon rating, Rory, can you rating for James's Wi-Fi?
Sorry, what did you say? Your Wi-Fi cut out.
Can you give me a rating for James's Wi-Fi?
Yeah, complete codswallop, mate.
Before we wrap up the end of the show, does anyone... Blue shirt guy has bad internet. Sorry, this distracted me. Does anyone have any other transfer rumors they'd want us to offer our opinion on? James's internet on the moon right now, which means maybe we will have to wrap it up prematurely. But yes, blue shirt guy is upsetting. Wired. I'd love to have wide internet, but unfortunately we're not in this position. Let's go into a few comments quickly, and then we will wrap it up, as I say, with a heavy heart, because I like talking about Arsenal, but Vodafone doesn't want it today. Do you guys see us playing the 2022-23 football with Zubi and Rice as a double pivot and Erd and Eze as a 10?
No. I mean, that wasn't wholly how we played that season anyway. But also, I just... like the first 6 months of 22-23, I think people just have to accept that's never coming back. That was an opportunity to play a style of football based on the fact that for years we had lost everyone's respect and we were treated completely with no respect. Like, we're not going to get that again. We may see a lot of variations this season. I think that's one thing we might get to see more of, is week in, week out, we won't just know the way that we're going to line up and the way that we're going to set up. We could play with 2 10s. I don't think we will, but we could. It also depends on who the left winger is. I think like Rodrigo compared to Nico Williams leaves you with a very different sort of dynamic, which would be interesting.
Yeah, I mirror your sentiment in that this idea of 22-23, we weren't as good as people think. We had fallibilities 100%. We were really easy on the eye, and also a big reason for that was Jesus and Zinchenko, who are no longer here, and we've replaced them with different profiles. Lewis Skelly, for all his strengths, is a lot better than Zinchenko, but he doesn't have quite the technical ability in tight spaces. Jesus is a freak. No, we won't see another Jesus playing for Arsenal, unless the spawn of R9 comes in the next few years. And as you say, the most important thing is that teams showed us a level of respect, similarly to Chelsea at the start of last season, and then very quickly they realised we can't play against Arsenal like this, and things go to pot. So no, I don't see us playing like that. What I'd like to see is us take those moments in games more, because we will see transition moments, and we're very, very poor at taking transitions. Eze will be huge to that, because he is someone who can drive into the space and can be more decisive than our current players. But yeah, overall, we won't see that. James' internet is like Jorgie trying to stop a breakout. That is quite funny and quite sad. And Faisal Carnage with a horrific shout. We're not even going to give that the time of day.
He's been trying to, honestly, he's been trying to run the Garnacho for way too long. Way too long.
I would love to see him go to Chelsea, because Chelsea, they just keep spending their money on players that, like, if their ambition is to win the title, Pedro and Bino Gittins, nice young players, but I just don't think they're title winners. I just don't think they're going to raise the level. What happened to the young Greek winner? Well, if you watched Caretsas is his name, I think. If you watched the roundup that week, I said it was very unlikely to happen. So yeah, that's what happened to him. He was never really going to come. People keep saying, Rory, bring back the Red Sox. Can you explain what that means?
Yeah, we played some in real life football and put it on TikTok the other day, and I was wearing some red Arsenal socks, and that got people very amused people for some reason. My red Arsenal socks. So
Fair enough. And Josh Miller, thank you. Thanks for saying that. We were quite overrated in the first 6 months of 2022-23. Thing is, overrated, I understand the argument, because overrated in terms of watchability, no, I disagree. Overrated in terms of how good we are. The 23-24 6 months with Jorginho and Rice in midfield, where we were emptying stadiums and not conceding, that was the best iteration of Arsenal that we've seen. We were packing teams 6-0 away from home, and they weren't even bothering. So we shouldn't be looking nostalgically on 2022-23. We should be looking at that 6 months with Havertz up front, by the way, and thinking, how can we recreate that? And to be honest, last season we didn't have the personnel, but if we can keep the personnel fit, that will make a massive difference. Yeah, final thing we'll discuss before my internet goes crash bang wallop. Cuesta replacement, as Kevin mentioned. Do you have any names, Rory?
Gabriel Heinz, I believe. That's my name.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. Yeah, I think Alex and I spoke about that on TCP Live. We don't know who Arteta is friends with behind the scenes, but what we do know is Cuesta will probably be a big miss. Hard to quantify how much that is, but I'm excited to see how he does in Calcio A or Serie A, depending on what it's called nowadays. One more question, because it's a great question from Eli Pendry. Who's one former Arsenal player you'd bring back to the current squad in their prime? And thank you for saying excluding, because it does annoy me when people get asked this question, are they just the best player? Because it's like, it's just so boring.
Who would I bring back? I mean, I feel like Sanchez is a really obvious one, and it has been for a while, just because of that left wing spot. Cesc Fabregas is another one. Prime Cesc Fabregas. I've rarely seen a better midfielder in the Premier League. I think he's actually still massively underrated for how good he was. So
I agree. And Sanchez would be interesting. I don't know how Arteta would. Well, obviously they play team, yeah. Everyone is saying Sanchez on the left, Sanchez. I would argue RVP is maybe even better than Sanchez as a shout. Great shout. Ashley Cole move MLS into midfield. Santi, of course, in that left centre midfield role would be unbelievable. Vieira, no doubt. We can all say the best Arsenal players ever. My shout will be Alexander Hleb as the backup to Ødegaard in that right half space, because I want to be different, and I think it's quite a fun one. And finally, don't know, says Reyes, Eduardo, Diaby, Overmars, and RVP. Lovely shouts, no complaints by me. You have a tendency for players who have real injury crises.
Fabrizio thing here 49 seconds ago. Arsenal and Brentford have exchanged all paperwork for Christian Norgard. The Danish midfielder will join Mikel Arteta's squad.
Excellent. And finally, we must say welcome Kepa, because that went under the radar a little bit, but I think it's a useful signing. So support the guy. Don't be one of those idiots who just moans all the time. It's time to glow. Hleb, my guy. I just thought he's a fun player. But thank you all for watching. I do apologize for the internet. I'm going to get an earful from the boss again. No, Alex is very, very supportive. Don't worry. And I will remind people, Rory, where can they find you?
Just Rory Talks Football. Anywhere, as long as you don't get me confused for the other Rory in the space, then you'll be fine.
Yeah, definitely not the Rory Jennings. So go follow Rory on every single social, and we will
Yes.
see you next week at 7:30, where I will have better internet. Fingers crossed. So, as always, thanks for keeping it Arsenal.
Tens of
It's fucked.
Tens of thousands of football fans came to Highbury. This was one kind of queue the ladies thoroughly enjoyed.
Electrifying. Electrifying.